You sit down on the couch, the anthem plays. The camera sweeps across a stadium painted in dozens of different national colors, and something in your chest tightens, just a little. You know this feeling. You've felt it every 4 years since you were a kid. But here's what almost nobody watching right now actually understands. This is not the World Cup you grew up with. Not even close. For the first time in the history of the tournament, 48 nations are chasing the same trophy, not 32, 48. The bracket is different, the math is different, even the number of matches has nearly doubled. So before a single ball gets kicked, you need to understand exactly what you're looking at. Here's a number that tells you almost everything. The last World Cup played 64 matches total. This one plays 104. That's not a small adjustment. That's an entirely different tournament, stretched across 16 host cities in 3 different countries, with weeks added to the calendar just to fit it all in. Why would anyone redesign the biggest sporting event on the planet this drastically? Because the people running it decided the old version had simply stopped being big enough. Start with the number itself. 48 teams sounds big because, well, it is big. Until this tournament, the World Cup had used 32 teams since 1998. That format lasted almost 3 decades. People built entire viewing habits around it. Then FIFA, the sport's global governing body, decided the world had outgrown it. The new format splits the field into 12 groups of 4 teams each, labeled Group A all the way through Group L. Every team plays the 3 other teams in its group. The top 2 finishers in each group automatically move forward. So do the 8 best third-place teams across all 12 groups, ranked against each other by their results. That's 32 survivors pulled out of 48, all funneled into a brand new stage called the Round of 32, a round that, in the old format, simply did not exist. We will talk more about that in the next video. Here's the part that actually surprises people. Getting one of those 48 spots has almost nothing to do with luck. It's a process that starts years before you ever turn on your television. 3 of those 48 spots were never up for debate. Mexico, Canada, and the United States qualified automatically because they're hosting the tournament. They didn't have to win a single qualifying match to be there. Hosting comes with that privilege, and it always has, going all the way back to Uruguay in 1930, the very first World Cup ever played. This time, hosting looks different too. For the first time ever, 3 separate nations are sharing the job at once, instead of just one. Matches are being played from coast to coast, across North America, in stadiums that have never hosted a World Cup match before, on a continent that's never had to coordinate logistics across 3 governments for a single tournament. That alone tells you this isn't a routine, business-as-usual edition of the event. Every other nation had to earn its way in, and that path runs through something called a confederation. Think of a confederation as a regional governing body, one for each major part of the world, and FIFA hands each confederation a set number of guaranteed spots based roughly on the size and strength of its region. Why does the size of a region matter this much? Because more teams in a region means more competition, and FIFA wants the spots to reflect that. UEFA, the confederation covering Europe, received the largest allocation by far, 16 spots. CAF, covering Africa, received 10. AFC, covering Asia, received 9. CONMEBOL, South America's confederation, and CONCACAF, covering North and Central America, each received 6. OFC, the Oceania Confederation, received exactly 1 guaranteed spot, after decades of fielding 0 automatic places at all. That last detail is worth sitting with for a second. An entire region of the world, made up of island nations spread across the Pacific, used to have no guaranteed path into the World Cup whatsoever. Now it has one. Multiply that shift across every confederation, and you start to see what this expansion actually did. It didn't just add more teams. It quietly redrew which parts of the world get a real, structural chance at the sport's biggest stage. Within each confederation, teams spend years playing qualifying matches against their regional neighbors, fighting for those limited tickets. Most nations earn their spot exactly this way, through ordinary qualifying competition inside their own part of the world. It's slow, it's grinding. Matches get played on weeknights in front of a few thousand people, with almost nobody outside the region paying attention, even though a country's entire World Cup future is riding on the result. For most countries, this is the only door in. But a handful of teams had to survive something even tighter, a playoff. 4 European nations only secured their places after winning separate playoff paths against other near misses from their own continent. Bosnia and Herzegovina won one of those paths. Sweden won another. Turkey won a third. Czechia won the fourth. Each of them had fallen just short of automatic qualification, then had to fight through one more round just to keep their World Cup alive. and 2 more teams claimed the very last tickets into the tournament through something rarer still, an intercontinental playoff, a winner-take-all match between teams from entirely different confederations, for spots that didn't belong to either region alone. Iraq won theirs. DR Congo won theirs. Whoever won, qualified. Whoever lost, well, just went home and started planning for the next cycle, 4 years away. So why does any of this matter to you, sitting on your couch, just trying to enjoy a match? Because it explains exactly who you're seeing on screen, and why some of them are standing on that field for the very first time in their nation's history. 4 countries are playing in a World Cup for the first time ever this cycle. Cabo Verde, Curaçao, Jordan, Uzbekistan. 4 nations, none of which had ever appeared at a men's World Cup before, all qualifying in the same expanded cycle. Is that a coincidence? It isn't. More available spots mean more nations get a realistic shot at qualifying, including ones that have spent decades coming close and falling short. Step back for a second now, because the bigger story underneath all of this isn't really about this one tournament. It's about how much the World Cup itself has changed shape again and again, almost every few decades, for nearly 100 years. The very first World Cup, in 1930, had just 13 teams. 13. Several nations didn't even bother making the trip because the boat ride to Uruguay took too long and cost too much. The tournament grew to 16 teams not long after that. It expanded to 24 in 1982. It grew again to 32 in 1998, the format that defined an entire generation of fans, and now 48. Now, back to the group stage. Because this is where all that history and all that math actually turns into something you can watch. Every team plays the other 3 teams in its group, 1 match against each of them. Win, and you get 3 points. Draw, and both sides walk away with 1 point apiece. Lose, and you get nothing. 3 matches. 9 points on the table, total, for every single team in the building. Here's a detail a lot of casual fans miss. If a group stage match ends level, it just stays level. There's no extra time, no penalty shootout, the referee blows the final whistle, both teams pocket their point, and everybody goes home. That rule only changes once the tournament reaches the knockout rounds, where somebody has to win no matter what. In the group stage, a draw is a completely valid result, and sometimes a team will play for one on purpose, especially late in a tight group, if a single point is exactly what gets them through. Once all 3 games are finished, the top 2 teams in each group move on, and for this year, some of the third-place teams. Simple enough. Until 2 or more teams end up with the exact same number of points, and in a 4-team group, that happens constantly. So what breaks the tie? The first tiebreaker is goal difference. That's the gap between how many goals a team scored and how many it let in across the group stage. Score a lot, concede little, and that number works hard for you. Picture 2 teams finishing with the exact same 7 points. One won its matches by big, comfortable margins. The other scraped through with narrow, nervy wins. Neither team lost a single match more than the other, but goal difference is what separates them on paper, and it can be the entire reason one team advances and the other one doesn't. If teams are still level after that, the next check is goals scored, on their own, no subtraction involved, just the raw number of times the ball crossed the line in your favor. Still tied, then it comes down to the head-to-head result, literally what happened the one time those 2 specific teams played each other inside that same group. Whoever won that match wins the tiebreaker outright, no further math required. And if every one of those numbers somehow matches exactly, FIFA checks fair play points next, built from each team's disciplinary record across the group stage. Yellow cards and red cards count against you here, so a team that played clean has a quiet advantage it never even had to think about. Fewer cards beats more cards. After that, if it's still a dead heat, the very last tiebreaker is a drawing of lots, a literal draw, decided the same way you'd settle an argument with a coin flip to determine which team's World Cup continues and which one packs up and goes home. So next time you sit back down on that couch and the anthem plays, you won't just be watching a match anymore. You'll be watching 9 points quietly get fought over, 3 results lock into place, and somewhere, in a group you weren't even paying close attention to, a goal difference column you never noticed before deciding an entire nation's tournament.